September 3rd, 1902, Volume 4. Everything that Jesus deserved in his life, he gave to all creatures, and in a special and superabundant way to one who is victim for love of him. This morning, as I was in my usual state, I felt a natural malady come to me, but so strong that I felt I was dying. I feared I might be about to pass from time to eternity, much more so since blessed Jesus was hardly coming, or at the most like a shadow. In fact, if he were coming as usual, I would not be fearing at all. Therefore, so that I might be in a good position, I prayed the Lord to give me the exercise of his holy mind, to satisfy for the evils I might have committed with my thoughts. His eyes, his mouth, his hands, feet, heart, and all of his most sacred body, to satisfy for all the evils I might have committed, and for all the good I was supposed to do, but did not. While I was doing this, blessed Jesus came, all in festal clothing, in the act of receiving me into his arms, and he told me, "My daughter, everything I deserved I gave to all creatures, and in a special and superabundant way to one who is victim for love of me. Behold, anything you want I give you, and not only you, but to whomever you want." And I, remembering the confessor, said to him, "Lord, if you take me, I pray you to content Father." And he, "Indeed, he has received some recompense for the charity he has done for you, and since he has cooperated, as you come to me into the sphere of eternity, I will give him yet more recompense." My malady was getting more and more vigorous, but I felt happy since I was at the harbor of eternity. In the meantime, the confessor came and called me to obedience. I would have wanted to keep everything quiet, but he forced me to say everything, and came out with the usual refrain that, out of obedience, I was not supposed to die. But in spite of this, my malady would not cease. September 3rd, 1908, Volume 8. Jesus is light, and light is truth. As I was in my usual state, blessed Jesus made himself seen, all light, and said these simple words, "I am light." But what is light made of? What is the principle of it? It is truth. So I am light because I am truth. Therefore, in order for the soul to be light, and to have light in all of her actions, these must come from truth. Wherever there is artifice, deception, and duplicity, there cannot be light, but darkness. And he disappeared like a flash. September 3rd, 1910, Volume 9. That which Jesus does to one soul affects all others. As I was in my usual state, blessed Jesus came as a child. He kissed me, he clasped me, he caressed me, and he returned many times with kisses and embraces. I was surprised that Jesus had so exceeded with me, most miserable one, being with me amid kisses and embraces. I returned them, but timidly, and Jesus, with a light that came out from him, made me comprehend that when he comes, it is always a great good, not only for me, but for the whole world, because by loving one soul and pouring himself out with her, he comes to regard the whole of humanity. In fact, in that soul there are many bonds that unite everyone, bonds of likeness, bonds of paternity and sonship, bonds of brotherhood, bonds of having all come out and been created by his hands, bonds of having all been redeemed by him. And because of this he sees us marked with his blood. Therefore, in seeing all this, As he loves and favors one soul, the others too are loved and favored, if not in everything, at least in part. So by coming to me, since we are in times of scourges, in kissing me, embracing me, caressing me, and looking at me, blessed Jesus wanted to regard everyone else and spare them in some points, if not completely. Then after this I saw a young man. I believe he was an angel who went around marking those who were to be touched by the scourge. It seemed that a great number of people was taken. September 3rd, 1913, Volume 11. A sign that a soul lives in the divine will is that she feels, just like Jesus, that she needs nothing but to give to all. While I was praying, although I don't really know how to explain myself well, this might even be a subtle pride of mine. I never think about myself and my great miseries, but always about repairing in order to console Jesus for sinners, for everyone. However, it's not that I think about it before, no. It's enough just to start praying, and I find myself at that point. Now, I was concerned about this, and my always adorable Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, what? Do you worry about this? You must know that when I place the soul in my will and she takes stable residence in my volition, the soul feels that she has everything in abundance, since my will contains all possible imaginable goods. So she puts herself in my same conditions, feeling the need to give rather than to receive. She feels that she does not need anything, and if she wants something, she can take anything she wants without even asking for it. Since my will contains an irresistible force to give, she is happy only when she gives. And as she gives, she remains even more thirsty for giving. In what constraints she finds herself when she wants to give and cannot find anyone to whom to give. My daughter, I put the soul who does my will in my same conditions, keeping her aware of my great joys and bitternesses, and everything she does is sealed with disinterest for herself. Ah, yes, the soul who does my will is the true sun, which gives heat and light to all, and which feels the necessity of giving that light and that heat. While it gives to all, the sun takes nothing from anyone, because it is superior to everything, and there is nobody on earth who can equal its light and the great fire which it contains. Ah, if creatures could see a soul who does my will, they would see her as a more than majestic sun in the act of doing good to all. Even more, they would recognize myself in this sun. Therefore, the sign that the soul has arrived at doing my will is that she feels in the condition of giving. Have you understood? September 3rd, 1919, Volume 12. Fusing oneself in Jesus balances the reparations. I was lamenting to my sweet Jesus about my poor state, and how I have remained like a useless being who does no good. So what's the purpose of my life? And my lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, the purpose of your life is known to me, and it is not up to you to investigate it. However, know that just fusing yourself in me every day, and many times a day, serves to maintain the balance of all the reparations, because only one who enters into me and takes from me the origin of everything she does can balance the reparations of everyone and everything. She can balance the glory of the Father on the part of creatures, because an eternal beginning and an eternal will are within me, and therefore I was able to balance everything, satisfaction, reparation, and complete glory to the celestial Father on the part of all. Therefore, as you enter into me, you come to renew the balance of all the reparations and of the glory of the eternal majesty. Do you think this is trivial? Don't you yourself feel that you cannot do without it, and that I do not leave you before I see you fusing yourself in each one of my members, in order to receive from you the balance of all reparations, as you substitute yourself in the name of the whole human family? Try to repair me for everything as much as you can. If you knew how much good the world receives when a soul, without a shadow of personal interest, but only for love of me, rises between heaven and earth, and united with me, balances the reparations of all. September 3rd, 1926, Volume 19. The desire purges the soul and whets her appetite for the goods of Jesus. How the divine will is penetrating and converts its effects into one's nature. I was feeling all identified with my sweet Jesus, and I was praying him from the heart to watch over my poor soul, so that nothing might enter into me which was not his will. Now while I was doing this, my dear good, my sweet life, moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, the desire for a good, for knowing it, purges the soul and disposes her intelligence to comprehend it, her memory to remember it. Her will feels its appetite for it being wet, to make of it its food and life, and it moves God to give her that good and to make it known." So, the desire for a good, for knowing it, is like the appetite for food. When there is appetite, one feels the taste, eats with pleasure, remains satisfied and content with having taken that food, and is left with a desire to enjoy it again. On the other hand, if there is no appetite, that same food which is enjoyed so eagerly by someone causes nausea and disgust to someone else who has no appetite, and he may reach the point of suffering because of it. Such is the desire for the soul. It is like appetite, and in seeing that the desire for my things is her delight, to the point of making of them her food and life, I abound. I abound so much in giving that I never tire of giving. On the other hand, one who does not desire them, because their appetite is missing, will feel nausea for my things, and that gospel saying will be repeated. It will be given to one who has, while one who does not desire my goods, my truths, celestial things, will be deprived of the little he has. Just penalty for one who does not desire, has no appetite for, and wants to know nothing about the things that belong to me. And if he has any little thing at all, it is right that it be taken away from him and be given to those who possess much. Then after this I was thinking about and identifying with the holy divine will, and finding myself in its immense light, I felt its divine rays penetrating so deep into me as to transform me into its very light. And Jesus, coming out of my interior, told me, "My daughter, how beautiful, penetrating, communicative, transforming is the light of my will. It is more than sun which, pounding on the earth, gives with liberality the effects that its light contains, nor does it wait to be asked, but spontaneously, as its light fills the surface of the earth, it gives what it has to everything it encounters. It gives sweetness and taste to the fruit, color and fragrance to the flower, development to the plants. To all things it gives the effects and goods it contains. It makes no exception with anyone. It is enough that its light touches them, penetrates into them, and warms them, for it to accomplish its work. My will is more than sun. As long as the soul exposes herself to its vivifying rays and banishes the darkness and the night of her human will, its light rises and invests the soul, penetrating into her inmost fibers to dispel from her the shadows and the atoms of the human will. As its light pounds on the soul, and she receives it, it communicates all the effects it contains, because coming out of the Supreme Being, my will contains all the qualities of the divine nature. So, in investing her, it communicates the goodness, the love, the power, the firmness, the mercy, and all the divine qualities, not in a superficial way, but in a real way, such as to transmute all of its qualities into the human nature, so much so that the soul will feel within herself as her own the nature of true goodness, of power, of sweetness, of mercy, and so with all the rest of the supreme qualities. My will alone has this power to convert its virtues into one's nature, but only for one who abandons herself prey to its light and to its heat, and keeps the tenebrous night of her own will away from her, the true and perfect night of the poor creature. September 3rd, 1927, Volume 29. Until the soul lets the divine will reign, she will always be unhappy and restless. Diversity of martyrdom of soul and of body. I was crossing the sea of light of the divine Fiat, following its acts, and oh, how I comprehended that all good is in it. And my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, until the creature comes to letting my divine will reign within her, she will be always unhappy, always restless, because as good, holy, learned, and rich as she may be, she will feel within herself that she lacks the fullness of happiness and the sea of peace, which are such that from no side may she be disturbed or her happiness broken. So she can only be happy by half, and her peace will be halved. And because it is not whole, the half that she lacks will keep the way open to bring unhappiness and disturbance. See, this happens also in the natural order. Someone is rich, he lacks nothing, he possesses his 10, 20 millions or billions, but knowing that he could acquire more and be even richer, he feels restless, unhappy. And as though putting his riches aside, he is all step, all works, all words, all eyes for the other riches he would like to acquire. Poor one, how can he be happy, peaceful, if he lacks the source of goods that says to him, "Rest, everything is yours, and everything you want is in your power"? Someone else is king, but how much unhappiness under that crown, fear of losing his kingdom, hopes, and yearnings to acquire more kingdoms, to rule over the whole world at the cost of wars. So possessing a kingdom is nothing other than an open way to render the poor king unhappy and restless. A third one is learned, but not possessing all the sciences, knowing that he could possess more sciences, he does not rest, nor does he feel happy and peaceful. How many times, before someone else who is more learned than he feels humiliated, and feels the unhappiness caused by his lacking the fullness of sciences. Now the same happens in the supernatural order. Someone is good, but he does not feel within himself that he possesses the source of goodness, because he feels that on some occasions his patience is weak, his firmness in good is intermittent, his charity is very often limping, his prayer is inconstant. This renders him unhappy, restless, because he sees that his goodness is not whole. It is as though halved, and the other half that is missing serves to torture him and make him unhappy. Poor one, how clearly it shows that he lacks the kingdom of my divine will. In fact, if it were reigning in him, he would possess the source of goodness that will say to him, "Rest, everything is in your power," source of patience, of firmness, of charity, of prayer. And feeling the source within himself, he would feel the sea of happiness and of peace extend inside and outside of himself, and unhappiness and restlessness would no longer find the way to enter into him. Someone else is holy, but on some circumstances he does not feel within himself the source of holiness, the light that makes one know everything, that points everything out to him, the road and the happiness. The knowledge of God is not full. The heroism of the virtues vacillates in him. So with all his holiness he is not happy nor peaceful, because since the total dominion of my divine Fiat is missing, he lacks the source of the light that eclipses the seed of all evils and substitutes it with the source of happiness and of peace. This is why, until creatures let my divine will reign, in the world there will be not even the idea nor true knowledge of what true peace and fullness of happiness mean. All things, however good and holy, will not have their fullness, because since the dominion and the reigning of my supreme volition is missing, what communicates the source of all happiness is missing, which is a spring, and therefore one can take from it whatever he wants and however he wants it. This is the reason for all my cares, that my will be known and form its kingdom in the midst of creatures, because I want to see them happy, and of that happiness with which I issued them in creating them, and they were delivered from the womb of their Creator, who possesses all possible and imaginable happinesses. After this I was following the holy divine will, and feeling myself without my sweet Jesus, I was raving, for I wanted he who, making me agonize, was making me experience the hardest martyrdom, such that I could endure no more. And my always lovable Jesus, coming out from within my interior, told me, "My daughter, the martyrdom of the soul is greater, more noble, and contains a value so great that compared to that of the body, oh, how this one remains behind. The martyrdom of the body is limited. It is small before that of the soul. The soul is light, while the body is matter. And as the body is martyred, the blood that it sheds does not expand, does not diffuse far away, but wets only that little space of earth on which it finds itself. Therefore its effects are limited and circumscribed to places, to time, and to people. On the other hand, that of the soul is light, and when this light is filtered, placed under a press, the light diffuses, it rises, it extends more and more. Who can restrict and circumscribe the light of the sun? No one. Who can ever prevent its solar rays from investing the entire earth and making its heat felt by all? No one. There is no power against the light. There are no weapons that can wound it and kill it. All powers together are powerless against the light. Whether they want it or not, they are forced to give it its course and let themselves be invested by it. And if anyone, taken by madness, should think of stopping it, with a power that is all its own and natural for it, the light would laugh at him, and winning would spray him with more light. Now the soul is more than sun, and when she suffers my privation, as she goes around and is crushed under its press, so many more rays does she acquire, to extend and expand more. And since this is a pain of a divine life, by doing the divine will, in this martyrdom, the soul offers the most beautiful act, and her light extends so much that no one can reach her, because it is a divine will that enters into this martyrdom, caused by the privation of your Jesus. Matter does not enter at all into this martyrdom, but everything is light. Light is your Jesus. Light is my will. Light is your soul. And they form such an enchantment of light that heaven and earth are invested by it, bringing the benefit of the heat and of the light to all. Therefore, the martyrdom of the body is nothing compared to this. End of September 3rd. Fiat.